Hello and welcome to Social Legal Literary, a student-run venture committed to provide excellence in law, literature, and social issues. Today, in our Reform in Legal Education interview series, I, Pragya Garg, along with my colleague Rajesh Ranjan, will be interacting with Ms. Sukriti Singh. Ma'am is the Chief Administrative Officer at Live Law and has been a part of Live Law since its founding. She completed her LLB from Rani Durgavati Vishwavidyalaya in 2016 from Jabalpur and LLM from Rabindranath Tagore University, Bhopal. We welcome you, ma'am. Thank you for joining us. Over
Thank
to
you so
you, Rajesh.
much.
You will be starting.
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am. So you have been working in the legal field since a long time and have been observing the things very closely. My first question is that how do you see the change in career trajectory amongst the law students? And adding to that, it is often seen that people opting for corporate jobs, switching in a year, and sometimes even less than a year. How do you see this in terms of the alternate career options?
Okay, first of all, thank you so much, Pragya and Rajesh, for inviting me for this discussion. The change in career trajectory is now a very common observation, which you can see in different fields. In law, it is also growing because there has been diversified field. Now it's not confined to only one or two avenues. Now the scope of law has been widened to an extent that it offers multiple opportunities to the students and allow them to excel and profess their different streams. And it has been observed, and it is a trend which is continued, that to grow you need to explore new things. You have to become a constant learner. So nowadays, if you are pursuing law, you can choose multiple career options. Now the time has gone that the law has been confined to only litigation, judiciary services, and in academics. Now the scope is wide. You can either opt legal journalism, you can do content writing, you can go into corporates. PSUs are now hiring legal officers on A grade officer basis. You can open a legal consultancy of yours. In fact, nowadays every private venture has their own legal team. So then now since there are multiple options, it gives you multiple choices to choose your profession. And in fact, to grow, you need to have different avenues, and to find your suitable calling, you have to explore those things. But one must understand, like switching in few months is not wise, because until and unless you be involved in an organization, you don't know about their functioning, you don't know how it works and how learn something from it. Then only joining any organization would be fruitful for you. Why this concept of internships has been introduced? Just because it has been introduced to make you aware of the world which you have to appear when you get out of your academics. You have to work with different kind of people in different work atmosphere. So the concept of internships has been introduced in this balance. But what is happening nowadays that since switching different pay scales, work environment, work pressure is something which is very major concern amongst the millennials, that they're not able to bear the pressure in the corporates, they're not able to bear the workload, so they switch frequently. But it somewhat shows an instability. For example, if you're working in an organization to at least minimum a time frame of 6 months to 1 year, would be ideal for you to understand what is there in the organization. And you are joining an organization to add value to yourself and contributing something and adding value to the organizations. So in that role, you have to observe for a while and then you may switch, because to grow you have to explore a bit higher, always a level up from where you're currently working. But I'll suggest to the students that choose wisely. First of all, choose wisely where you want to go, what you want to pursue. Just because a group of people is following the same thing doesn't mean you go with the flow. Now the time has gone of the concept that to go with the flow. No, you have to find your perfect calling. You have to understand your skills, your area of expertise where you can work for a longer term. Then only you can become an expert, because law is more about practical approach rather than going completely through bookish languages or getting through books will clarify your concepts, but until unless you won't implement that, you won't profess that, it won't be of use. It would just be a knowledge or a theory which is there in your mind, but it's not implemented. So whenever you are switching, just make sure that you have learned something from a previous organization. you have added value to yourself, you have contributed something to the organization, and then switch. Because in that way, it shows a constant stability and a growth in your career graph also. So working on, especially people nowadays works on associate level, then they come down in their path, they choose lesser, or they choose legal assistant in some government organization, though working as a legal associate in a big top-notch firm. So that is somewhat goes against your career graph. So it's very important for you to understand, to find out your perfect calling, because it takes a lot of years to understand what you exactly want to do in your life. So try to experiment, but choose your path wisely. That's what I can suggest.
Yes,
Ma'am.
ma'am.
So adding value addition both to the organization and to ourselves is something which is very strong coming from you, ma'am. So Soumya, the next question over to you. Pragya, sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. So, yeah, ma'am. So, talking about law students' method, like of understanding that what job will be is good for them and what is not, it will basically come from what they have learned in their law schools. So, ma'am, Ellen Grinan and Louis Pertel commented, and I quote, the law schools clearly have a duty to ensure that all their students receive a legal education which will for prepare them to cope effectively with what is coming, with the challenges of the legal practice in the 21st century. So, ma'am, do you think Indian law schools are meeting the numerous expectations, the challenges which the students are supposed to face after law schools? Do you think that the engagements with the new avenues and innovations and access to justice is enough for the law students in their law colleges?
So it's a very good question, by the way. So it's an undeniable fact that the law schools have made a revolutionary changes and embarked major changes in the legal education. Specifically, past 1 decade, we have seen a revolution in the legal education sector. Now, national law universities have emerged. Now we have a national law university in each and every state. Earlier, we used to have separate entrances of every law college. Now there is a common law admission test which is happening, LSAT is happening. There's a cluster of colleges which combine, and to facilitate the students have conducted common admission tests. So it somewhat brought the attention of the students also. This 5-year integrated program, this various integration of BLLB, BBLLB, somewhere BSc LLB is also there in NLB Jodhpur, I think. So these options and these avenues have opened several options for the students to opt. This integration program not only gives them a bachelor's degree, but also excels them in law and saves them 1 year. So the change has been there. Of course, it has been a very major change that NLUs have emerged as the center of quality education, quality legal education in this country, and have produced some exceptional lawyers which are not only marking their presence in India, but abroad also. But check the other side of the coin, that we have one NLU in every state, exceptionally 2 or 3 NLUs in Maharashtra and in other states also. But there needs to be a uniform legal education if you want to produce quality lawyers overall. For example, I belong to a state university. So it's governed by a state government. So it is not a national law. So there will be difference in infrastructure. There would be difference in curriculum. There would be difference in the facilities which has been provided to the student, either in terms of legal database, in terms of competitions, in terms of opportunities. So there is something, a major difference has been created. Major change has been brought by introducing national laws in this country, but somewhat we have set back in creating a uniform education system for all the law colleges so that a constant development can be observed across the nation. And each and every law student should read specific or certain laws mandatorily to be in the legal profession. There is lack of practical approach still in some state law colleges, though, because it's not their fault also. Understand? So all the, specifically I talk about my colleges. So the basic hurdle of my HOD was to get the examination done on time, because there has been a practice in other law colleges that the 5-year courses completing in 6 years and 6.5 years, delay in the education sector, lot of other infrastructural defects. So that is what somehow creating a gap between the NLUs and the non-NLUs. So the development is confined to the premier institutions, but something which has to be uniform has not been reached to all the states. So a balance of theories and a practical approach, which is quite emphasized in national laws, like you people must be having moods, you are having seminars, you are having NLUs, competition, but same is not the practice in national laws, in not non-NLUs. So right, in non-NLUs college, first of all, students find it hard to participate and they hesitate to compete with the national law students because there is a sense of inferiority in the students that they won't be able to make the national law student, though somewhat it can be shunned, but it's completely depending on the student itself, because if you want to explore, you'll find your way, then there are no excuses. But it's a common practice. Every student don't have that diligence. They seek for opportunities. They look towards the institution that there should be a constant support from the institutions. They should support them. So for example, several law schools have now introduced certificate courses, certifications. They have opened centers for different law subjects. For example, there is a center of marine law, there is a center of sports law, there are IPR specialization happening in all the national laws, and various other programs has been introduced. So on one hand, we are creating a quality lot, but there is something which has to be implemented nationwide, is a uniform legal education system, so that each and every law student should be at the same footing. Because our job as an institution should be to provide the opportunity. It's up to the student whether they want to take it or not, they want to grab it or not, they want to go to their respective fields or not. So as an institution, it's our duty to provide them the necessary infrastructure, to provide them a basic facility so that they can all grow together simultaneously, and then there should be a legit competition. So yes, it is evolving, but I think in the bigger picture, we need to work a lot on this. At least in the education sector, we need to promote more and more research. We should make students aware. We should develop this awareness amongst the students. This inferiority complex, this gap needs to be filled, so that a law student should be competing with other NLU students. So there should be a uniformity in the system.
So, ma'am, you are advocating the idea of equality, the parity of education, or the democratization of legal opportunities on the same line.
I feel there should be a uniform legal education. There should be a uniform curriculum throughout the nation for every college, because the NLUs are providing best faculties, best infrastructure, best curriculum. But the same student from a non-NLU will also go to the court. For example, a student from an NLU is going to a high court. The student from a non-NLU is also going to the high court. So then you bring them into the same platform and let them compete. But there should be a competition of equality amongst the classes. It says equality amongst equals. So there should be a balance. There should be something which should be common for all. Then the student would be able to compete properly, just combating their inferiorities and their drawbacks.
So you talked about the multitude of choices in the previous answers also, ma'am. So my question is that, do you think current legal curriculum allows flexibility of diversified choices? And in that perspective, how do you see the legal journalism as a career option for fresh law graduates? What are the challenges while pursuing it as a career? You have been associated in the field since a very long time and the foundation of live law also. So what your experience tells about the legal journalism, ma'am, as a career option?
So here I have a different opinion, which unlike others, like opportunities lies everywhere. It's just up to the student how to grab it, and legal education since has been several development being seen in our surroundings, which is introducing more skill oriented tasks apart from the basic legal theories, and making a choice to an unconventional profession is solely up to you students, that on which career path you want to choose, because it's not a 1 or a 2 day practice. If you are choosing an unconventional profession, You have to stick to it no matter what happens. You have to make your path very clear. You have to be very precise and without any expectation. Because if you are expecting a very huge sum, if you're expecting a lot of glamour in the profession, so it is somewhat which is seen from outside. But if you get into this profession, you have to be equally diligent and you have to give yourself completely towards the profession, because it's not easy to follow an unconventional route. It is very common to get into a judicial services, study for 1 or 2 years with full force and clear the examination. Any student can do that because it just requires a focus and attention. But when you are choosing an unconventional profession, it requires skill, your continuous effort, and day-to-day learning. So that's how I can say, because when it comes to legal journalism, on a lighter note, be very careful if you're opting this profession, though it's a very good choice. On a very serious note, no, it's a very good choice and more of a learning experience, because every day since 23rd September 2013 till now, I'm learning every day, and we have to learn every day, because journalism, specifically legal journalism, is something which evolves you into this learning process. You can't be stagnant with the previous laws. You have to be very updated with the amendments. You have to be diligent with what's happening in the court. And somewhat I say that legal journalism somewhat enhances your writing skills. It makes you a diligent researcher, it nurture your analytical skills, develop a critical approach. Specifically, I'll speak about my courtroom correspondents who actually amongst the chows listen each and every observation which has been observed by the honorable court. They note it down, they prepare a report. When a live streaming has been done, it seems like they are talking and we are listening. But in a courtroom which is jam packed, amongst 100 people are speaking, it's the diligence of the reporter and the grasp about the subject that he's understanding what he has to note, what he has to overhear, what he has to write down. So that requires diligence and a lot of practice. So each and every legal correspondent which we choose, and when we call for applications, we specifically mention that they should have a clear basic concept, clear about the major laws. One must have the knowledge of constitution, basic criminal laws, civil laws, because in Supreme Court, once you'll get into it, you won't be understanding what is going on, because in double bench or in a 5-judge bench, it's very difficult to get each and every observation. So these legal correspondents are the real-time warriors who are actually sitting there and hearing amongst the chows. So things won't easy as it seems, because legal journalism nowadays seems to be a very glamorous profession, because I have seen people writing this on their CVs that I want to be famous, I want fame, that's why I wanted to join legal journalism. So trust on my words, if you want to get fame and if you want to get famous, legal journalism is not for you, ma'am. You have to go to the mainstream journalism, which will give you fame and you'll be like nurturing. But if you're not willing to learn, this path is really very tough, because it requires your tireless work hours, it's required your absolute dedication, your commitment, and that is how Live Law has been created. Because Live Law has been an initiative started by 5 people initially. We were a team of 8 people who were working on every front. We were the people who are writing, we are publishing, promoting, sharing, generating all the content, getting all the information, doing the research. And then gradually in these 7 years, we have grown, we made mistakes, we have learned from them, we have tried our hacks, because none of them are from the business perspective. Each and every one of us, apart from our founders, were law students. I was a 3rd-year law student, like Rajesh is. When I was at Pragya's age, I started my content writing career. I used to write freelancing for different blogs and portals. When I came to the 3rd year of my college, I started as an intern in Live Law to write stories initially. Then the social media came. Then I slowly learned how it works, how this entire ecosystem works. Then we have proceeded further, because Live Law, the best part of Live Law is that it allows you to grow, develop, and experiment. We are not bounded by any boundaries to just confined to a particular strata, and we have to follow that. It's all about innovation, it's all about experimenting, it's all about learning. The more you will learn, the more you will grow, the more you will move further in it. There has been several examples that many of the Live Law people has been working now in major news portals. If you say Apurva is working in print, like other people currently, our colleagues join Times now. So it's now our job, and we have somewhat been developing good correspondents, and we have been outsourcing people also to come into this profession, learn, and be a professional. But this journey is really tireless. If you want to join it, come with full dedication, no expectation, endless hours of work, absolute intention of learning, growing, and developing.
Yes, ma'am.
That's very
Thank you so
wonderful
much.
and inspiring, ma'am, for answer, ma'am. This is
Yeah.
something very inspiring for not only both of us. I think the viewers will also inspire from this to look up the live law or work particularly. Yes, Pragya.
Yes, and so, ma'am, talking about legal journalism as a career, this leads to my next question of gender disparity in law school. So, ma'am, how does less gender disparity in law school affect the future role of the law student as a professional, especially in media? So, like our mainstream media consists of mainly upper caste men. So, do you think that less gender diversity in the law schools finally lead to less opportunities for women in as professionals, women law graduates?
Okay, so
Did
I
you feel something like that?
Okay, frankly, I never felt that because I have been guided, mentored, and given ample of space and opportunity to explore. So in our organization, it's not like that, and I'm an example, and I can endorse it anywhere. But I'll deal the question in three different parts. So first is that it is undeniable that the legal profession has more males, or I'll be more specific that there is a dominance of male in the profession, and it is not something which is current or contemporary. It is going on for I think more than a decade. It is considered as a man's world. But since legal education has gained more pace, more students have diverted towards them. Now the law schools have witnessed a sufficient amount of girl students being enrolled. I can see you currently interacting with me. So one example goes in that way. But still, pursuing law is different, and practicing it as a profession is very different. Still, even if you go to the lower courts, there is still very less female lawyers practicing in the lower courts. Usually they go to high court or supreme court. And the reason is not about a gender parity, but it's the mindset of the people. For example, I've seen this in Madhya Pradesh. I belong to Madhya Pradesh. So in lower court, I have seen that a woman lawyer has to struggle so much to first of all gain the confidence of the client that she is diligent enough to handle a case. For example, I have seen very few women lawyers who have struggled so much, practiced for so many years. After then, there are only one handful or one or two lawyers who are actually the criminal lawyers, or I can say the leading faces in the profession, because there is a sense of doubt remains in our mind related to the competency of female lawyers, because it has been said that mahila hai kitna hi kar lengi. That is has been said in the lower courts. I have heard that. It's so disheartening that this mentality still exists when you can see the women are excelling in academics. They are doing well in their moot courts. They are being awarded. They have been recognized everywhere. But in the bigger picture, it's not just the gender parity. It's the mindset which has to be changed when it comes to the women in legal profession, because we have role models. There has not been new, but there has been role models. You can say Madam Jay Singh is there, Justice Indu Malhotra is there, Justice Indra Banerjee is there. In young lawyers, you can say Karuna Nandi is there, Arundhati Kaju is there, Madam Menka Guruswamy is there. So there has been examples, but there are exceptions. This is not somewhat in general. I can count n number of male lawyers. And there is Mr. Salve, there's Mr. Ramjotipalani, there is Mr. Sibal, there is Mr. Singhvi, and the list goes on and on. But the list of female lawyers is very limited, and it is not known to all. When you think of hiring the leading lawyers, and even in movies, if you see the names of famous lawyers are quoted, I never saw any female lawyer has been quoted. It has been just been used when there are any rape cases involved, wherever any cases related to women is involved, then only a female lawyer is portrayed as a protagonist. So that is the issue, that it is not the gender parity in the courts, it is the mindset which is really damaging, that we haven't been able to build the trust amongst the people that female lawyers are equally diligent as compared to men. People think that if a female lawyer is dealing in a criminal case, it may be out of peer pressure or something, she may leave the case, she may not be able to continue, either she'll be able to gain the confidence of the judges or not, and somewhat this actually impacts the psychology of the women also. So usually it has been said that the profession is confined for women in law is academics. She can be a good academician, she can be into lower judiciary, or somewhere nowadays she can be into corporates. That's it. In legal journalism, now the trend has changed. We have several good journalists over there. So it is evolving, but the sad picture is that lot more on a very massive scale in terms of mindset has to be working. Now coming to the second part, that the mainstream media is dominated by upper caste. So I won't comment on the part of caste and creed, but yes, there has been males leading the industry for a decade, more than a decade, because since the same issue, the mindset that very limited courses were offered to women, they were not being thought as diligent enough, then so on. But now the scenario is changing, and this in this part, it's a big relief that we can see equal female diligent reporters, correspondents, editors who has been a part of this industry, who has been doing field stories also. Now there are women journalists who are actually far more better than several other male reporters and correspondents when it comes to various technical topics. If you see, a very leading news channel has a very good legal editor who's covering the entire elections. So it's not a man's world in the mainstream industry, but yes, it is evolving and things will take time because it is ultimately the activism. Nowadays, a lot of things are attached with media. It's not just a knowledge sharing platform. It's not about news. Now, several other factors are there in the media, which we won't discuss it right now. So coming to the third part, that is the problem with the law schools. That what is the issue with the law school which haven't been able to combat this gender parity? It's again the mindset of the people. How many girls turn up to law and then they go into litigation? People in other states, they just get the girls into the legal profession, or they just allow them to pursue BLLB so that they can give judiciary examination, they can clear the lower judiciary, and they can be judges so that they find a suitable groom for themselves. That is a very harsh and a very common mindset which is followed in very various states, that if a girl is practicing law, she should be into either academics, should pursue PhD and become a professor, either she should be in giving lower judicial examination and she should clear the civil judge or the other judicial services and be a judge, so she should be in a respectable position. Very few of them turn up. I'll say those who have a legacy, those who are having like have the parents being into chambers, then they inherit them, or very few of them actually turn up to the courts. If you see from your profession also, maximum of the students sit in placements and hardly a very handful of people goes into litigation. But yeah, women taking into, like, it should not be a graduation degree, it should be something you should be professing in the long run also. And this is the biggest challenge which is actually coming up to create, because we are not able to create role models because there are no people around it. And plus, we are measuring them unequally. You can't compare a male lawyer and a female lawyer, though two people are having different circumstances. And on academic, on various front, a woman can lead, but in terms of opportunity, a male would always be leading because he is having more access. So nowadays, if females are liberated, so still there are a good number of girls, good number of students who are not getting the opportunity to cross the path and come to the court, because it still has been felt, especially in lower court, that it's a man's world.
So, ma'am, the next question is that how do you see the future of legal education in terms of its role in access to justice and setting a public discourse and fulfillment of social obligations? Are you optimistic that we law students, would be sensitive to the change happening in and around and would stand for its values?
Definitely it's evolving. Definitely there has been students who are now active, but I just want to clarify that there's a difference between activism and hyperactivism. There are students who are active, who are just vouching for their rights, who are fighting for their rights, who understand what is law, what are the fundamental right, what is rule of law. But now the situation is like that we are more influenced by other external factors, which actually hampers our opinion. So why we lawyers are considered different from an ordinary layman? Because we know the process, we know the system, we know the rules, we know the laws. But when some, like our people from us, people from our fraternity goes out of the way and speak something which is actually against the law, against the rule of law, against those principles, it is really discouraging. And it is the duty of the people who are there already in the profession to set a role model for the upcoming freshers, to make them understand what is right and wrong. It's not about always an ideology, a particular political aspect, or somewhat a media aspect, or somewhat a media trial. But each and every law student must at least know the basic rights, and it is his moral duty to impart it, to make people, at least he should make his or her family aware of their rights, which every Indian citizen has. He should not be influenced by any of the media channels, any of the reports, which is somewhat unauthenticated. If there is a rule of law, so every student must understand what is rule of law, not what they has been interpreted by those people who are non-professional, who are non-lawyers, and are interpreting rule of law and other theories according to their convenience. This is somewhat not justified, but there has been examples. There has been law students who has been filing, for example, for the live streaming of Supreme Court. It was a petition filed by a student, which actually turned out into the guidelines. The Shreya Singhal judgment is there in terms of examinations. When there has been any discrepancy in the examinations, the student had come forward, the student bodies have come forward and fought against the injustice. But that should be supported also. First, the student has the responsibility to stand for what is right, for their rights and what is actually right. It should not be somewhat influenced or being motivated or somewhat a propaganda which has been spread by the people. It is something, the actual rule, the procedure, and the law, which if being hampered or violated by any of the person around your surrounding, it is your duty to raise your voice against it. You can't be fined illegally, erroneously by a policeman. You can't be fined more the amount which is usually we can see in MB cases, that the traffic havaldars, the constable charge you erroneously just for the profit game, and for the other people they settle it for some $100 or $200. So that is that consumer rights. You have to be very aware in the consumer rights, for your domestic rights, for your human rights. Human rights is a very sensitive term, so use it very wisely, because it was somewhat more misused than it's used nowadays. So be very careful with your rights, understand, have that diligence, because you are lawyers. You are the future of this legal fraternity. You are coming into this platform, into this sector, and there is a big hope we all are keeping from the freshers, because now the quality of education you're receiving is far more than what we have received. So the larger implication is there on your side to choose your path wisely, to be optimistic, and at least not to pollute, not to let your opinion pollute by the external sources. Each and every law student must believe in the rule of law, must have the basic knowledge of the constitution, what is written in it, not what is interpreted by the people. So that's it.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So, ma'am, here I think when you talked about being influenced, I think social media plays a huge role in this aspect, because whenever a student, even a law student, I have noticed that many of my friends, if some influencer is posting something and he or she is not a lawyer, but they are just sharing stuff and people are believing it and they are resharing it. So it's just a vicious cycle of misinformation on the internet, and it's a never-ending cycle.
Yeah, because nowadays being in trend is somewhat, either be right or wrong, you should be in trend. I don't know what is that trend logic goes and how it takes you, because that trend is somewhat can be done by paying some amount of money and you can change the trend. So being a part of that fictitious trend which is leading to you nowhere is really poisonous. Because being a law student, when you have developed this kind of mindset, I don't understand what kind of professionals you will be in your career if you're not understanding what's right and wrong, especially in social media. Yes, so I'm a kind of person who have acquired my job from Facebook. So it's up to you how you use those mediums. Like you can either build an empire out of it, either you can't do anything and you destroy your entire career also. So it's your diligence, your intellect, which allows you to find out what is right and what is wrong. And only you should find out what is right. Not it should be told to you that this is right and follow it. Because humor is something different. Humor is present everywhere, but when it turns out to be toxic, it's no humor. It's just something which has been imposing on us, and that's what we need to understand. The media and the IT laws are sufficient enough to govern us, but till how long they will govern if we are not following the rules and the laws, and we are not helping them. You can't blame government for everything, because somewhat being a citizen, it's your duty also to protect your constitution, to protect your right, as well as preserve other rights also.
Yes, ma'am. So, ma'am, coming to the last question for our interview. So earlier we talked about the competition and comparison between NLU and non-NLU students, which is, in my opinion, very prevalent in our country. So, ma'am, be it internships or job offers, so do you think that this does affect the opportunities the students get, because non-LU students are already judged? Like in my opinion, when they apply for internships or jobs, the people already have a preconceived notion that this person is not coming from a good college. So, do you think that that is creating a gap between what the market demands, like actual deserving candidates, talented candidates, good law students, or do you think it's a healthy competition, like the NLU and non-NLU students? Like, do you think that this competition is healthy, or is it just destroying our legal? Uh,
So this industry, or be any industry, always demands skillful people, not irrespective of organizations, irrespective of institutions. You might have an edge if you belong to any premier institutions who is providing you an opportunity to take a job, come and take the job and profess. But that doesn't mean that it ends the opportunity for the students who is not having the tag of that NLU or a premier institution. Skill and diligence will take you anywhere until and unless you won't desire it. If you want to make through, you will make it. And there are examples like in that. If that is the case, then I should be scared to you people, because I belong to a very small state university and you people are far more
And
ahead than me.
I'm sorry to interrupt, ma'am.
Belongs
You
to
are the
NLUs.
example. You are the example, and lot of people who are doing this. You are the perfect example of this. That coming from a non-NLU and doing such a wonderful job.
So it completely requires your skill, your zeal, that how much you want it, how desperately you want it to be in the profession, to make your mark. For example, when I have started, I was at Pragya's age only when I started writing for free. So for 2 to 3 years, I wrote for free. As I entered my law school, I used to submit articles in the competition. Each and every article of mine were rejected. I participated in a lot of essays competitions, whatever was available, because there are options. At least nowadays it is available on the website, you can access it. I belong to a stage where all this has just started, so it was something very new. We have to grab the opportunity, and somewhat you learn from your mistakes. So never afraid, at least, from making mistakes, because until and unless you won't try, how you'll know what is happening and what is wrong with you. Like I have been rejected, I don't know for how many times in all the competition, and I never won a competition. Anyone. I tried for a very famous like legal essay competition. I submitted thrice, but I only have the participation certificate, and that also I flaunt like that time to my college, because it was a very big thing that to get a certificate from a NLU in a non-NLU institute. That was a really big thing. So moot course and everything goes quite far. It's just something your quest, your zeal, your desire to achieve it. Internships definitely are offered to an NLU student because the institutions has the tie-up. So it's a very easy thing for you. But also feel free, like understand that how many students who have been interning on these premier institutions have been a famous lawyer, or all of them are famous lawyers, or all of them are diligent professionals. Every one of them have done the internships. How they utilize it, it's up to them. You practice, you intern in the biggest firm of this country and abroad. It won't be of any use if you don't materialize your skills, you don't implement your skills, you don't learn it. Very common thing in our live law, I think our maximum interns are from non-NLUs. We get every day, when I call for any application, I get at least 300 to 400 applications. And very sad to say that many of the NLU students don't know how to make their CVs. They just copy it from a website, they don't even remove the watermark, they copy paste it and send it. So skill, intelligence, quality is existing everywhere. There are challenges in front of non-NLU student because you don't have that infrastructure. But no one can take out your skill, your talent out from you. Just have the courage to follow it. Just have the courage, have that determination, and give whatever it takes. Because unless you won't try and you won't fail, how you'll understand the process? Everything can't be a sure shot, not for anyone. In live law, we face n number of challenges. There was a moment in live law when we were thinking or how we'll survive, because from a small portal, from a small blog, we went to a news portal. So it requires continuous efforts, but it was somewhat the vision which we believed in. It was somewhat the mission which we wanted of independent journalism, which helps us in going. So develop that skill in you. This 5 years, you can make or break yourself. You can learn n number of things. I'm not a marketing person, but in live law, I have done PR, HR, sales, social media, digital, everything. And I have learned everything by Googling, doing free courses, reading several articles, and implementing that. I never done an intern in any fancy law firm because I didn't got that time. I was working while I was learning. So even if the national law students are getting the opportunity, the platform, let there be the mindset that the NLU students are far more better. When you'll be in the court, if you have your concepts clear, you are practicing properly, you know your drafting skills well, no one can beat you, I can write it. And if you have the skill in you, if you have that zeal in you, and if you have the willing to learn, if you want to learn and acquire new skills, if you want to make your concept concrete, no one can take that from you. No one, trust me. And there has been examples in high courts, you can see that all of them are not national laws. Even the students coming from Oxford and Harvard are working under those senior lawyers who were somewhat a student of a state law university. So that is the difference. It is the skill of it's a skill and the mindset of you people, that how you take it. It's completely up to you. And let there be competition. Yeah, the healthy competition will be there when, and as I say, an equal opportunity would be provided to all. A uniform education system would be there. In terms of internships, there would be a based on skill, merits, not on any sort of preference, references, institutional preference. But even if it's not there, it's not taking anything from you. It just requires time, patience. It allows you more room to grow, to develop your skills and then compete. But don't stop competing. Explore. There are several things in Google. There are several things on the web which is for free. You can earn, learn, and make your career path. Because now it's not only about litigation. It's not only about getting into competitive. Be a brand yourself and make a difference. And that will make you stand out of it. In the long run, when you go to the court, this tag won't help you. Being an NLU student, you can't put a badge that I am an NLSIU alumni, I am a national law, I am a non-NLU. It won't help you. That one enrollment number which you'll get by clearing your bar examination, and then rest is your hard work.
Thank you so much for this wonderful and inspiring conversation, ma'am. I think we enjoyed a lot. I think the viewers would also inspire from this, coming from very strong inspirations, the division, the equality, the democratization of knowledge, and all in between. Thank you so much, ma'am, for this conversation.
Thank you so much, and all the very best for your future. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.